You're welcome back. A few months ago, the federal government of Nigeria announced it would draw from subsidy payments on petroleum products. According to Nigeria National Petroleum Commission, after the deregulation, a litre of petrol may sell at 320 to 340 naira per litre. Although the federal government has plans to cushion the effect these may develop, and these may pose on people by paying the price of the poor Nigerians, about 40 to 30 million of them, of 5,000 monthly transportation allowance. But will this solve other economic aspects? Bearing in mind that petrol cost is directly proportionate to the cost of other items in the market, the question is who will interface for the Nigerian masses? In the news, the Trade Union Congress has directed its state chapter to commence mobilization for industrial action against petrol subsidy removal. The union made a resolution at its National Executive Council meeting held on Saturday in Abuja. Reading the communique issued after the meeting, Quadri Olaleye, the TUC president, said the proposal by the National Economic Council on subsidy removal should consider the consequent economic impact on the masses. Last week, TUC had asked the federal government to fix the country's moribund refineries before ending the fuel subsidy. Members are also urged to support the political commission of the Congress in creating ground-wall awareness for providing leadership alternative that deliver on democratic dividends and transformative governance to the people. NEC, in a section, insists that federal government must ensure that the condition precedents put forward to the TUC on the deregulation of the downstream, such as revitalization of existing refineries, establishment of new ones, including modular refineries, effective policing of borders to stem the rate of petroleum product smuggling, etc., are implemented. And finally, NEC in a section has mandated the Congress led by the President to take all necessary steps to ensure that these conditions are met before subsidy is removed. Consequently, NEC in a section directs State Council and affiliates to commence mobilization of members for industrial actions against subsidy removal without the government fulfilling condition precedent. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Labour Congress says it will continue with its planned nationwide protest on Thursday, despite the announcement by the federal government that it would no longer remove the fuel subsidy for now. NLC Assistant General Secretary Asuzu Echona confirmed this in an interview ahead of the mass rally. The NLC has written to the 36 states governors to demand the withdrawal of the removal of the fuel subsidy scheduled for June. The big questions are: how implementable are the demand of the TUC before the proposed date of the subsidy removal, if there's going to be anything like that? Because the Minister of Finance, Zainab Ahmed, has said in the 2022 budget, subsidy removal were stay from January to June. But what happened after July? And again, before July, is it possible for the government of the day to actually implement the demands of the TUC? I have joining me via Zoom the Comrade Hosting General TUC Chairman Rivers State. I hope he gets to join us alongside the show. And live in the studio is Comrade Engineer Fortune Obi as the TUC Secretary Rivers State Chapter. Thanks for joining the show today.
Thank you, Flora.
Okay, as straight to the conversation. After next meeting Saturday, your group are actually mobilizing the 36 states for a strike. Initially, I was thinking it's going to be protest, but when I spoke with chairman via phone, he said we want to shut down the nation. I was like, we're going to see another aspect of the TSA. But again, we got a shocker a few hours ago from the federal government saying no plan or subsidy removal has been placed on suspension. Let's get your viewpoint concerning this new development before we go on the talk on the strike action.
For me, nothing has changed. The intention of the federal government, we all know that there is a proposal for complete removal of the fuel subsidy. In my view, and in the view of the Trade Union Congress, is that whatever is the plan, we must ensure that those basic infrastructures are in place before you can remove subsidy. So we are indifferent about their decision at the moment. It's not changing the decision of the next session of Trade Union Congress of Nigeria.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
Okay, now, don't you think these spontaneous reaction from the government is due to the fact that your group, organized labor, are already mobilizing the 36 state governor, of course, the counterparts in all of their states to get ready for the strike action? Isn't it a welcome move that the organized labor should think over?
In my view, I think the federal government is just being spontaneous in reacting to issues instead of being proactive. If you have proper engagement with the major stakeholders, what that means is that you have opportunity to look at various issues before coming to the public to say you will be removing subsidy. And we know the impact of the removal of subsidy. Everybody will be worried because the attendant effect of that removal will basically affect every part of our life. So that's why the reaction is a spontaneous one and it's not properly thought through. They should go back to the drawing table, even as they proposed that by June 2022, they will be finally removing the subsidy. Whatever we're hearing now is still rumor. It won't stop the organized labor in taking their decisive action.
Okay, you earlier said they should think twice. Is an action taken on impulse base? What's your definition for that when you say something they
maybe because they've heard from the NLC that the NLC is embarking on a nationwide protest, and TUC had also written or agreed on their last NEC meeting, which held on the 22nd, about our impending action. So I believe they are reacting to those decisions, knowing the effects of those protests and the action of the Trade Union Congress.
With the passage of the PIA Act, what was the organized labor expecting as regards subsidy?
The view of the organized labor is that even when you have the Petroleum Industry Act in place, that the petroleum industry should be robust enough to manage all the exigencies that are identified in the system. Not just basically picking them one after the other, even after passing the bill. Because what the bill does is that it creates a platform for investors to build investors' confidence to come into the Nigerian market and then do business. But when you have an unstable policy, even the investors are scared because they don't know when the organized labor will also strike because of indecision or not willing to take the bold step. Yes, the legislature have done enough job, and a lot of major stakeholders made a lot of inputs into the PIA. But that is not sufficient. We have to look at the issues around the petroleum subsidy. You cannot be creating a monster when you say you want to remove a subsidy. You can imagine federal government suggesting that they are going to be paying 40 million Nigerians 5,000 naira. When we have the infrastructures in already decayed and comatose states. So we need to change those narratives. That's what organized labor is saying. You can't continue to say you want to make a change while you still stand in the same position.
Still staying on the PIA Act, you said clearly that the PIA Act was to give room for foreign investor. Doesn't that also
not basically.
hold on. Does not doesn't that also shows that this somewhat give the federal government some relax on subsidy, or maybe reduce the strength of subsidy payments?
I don't think so. What I feel is that, okay, the reality is that the PIA gives every stakeholder in the oil and gas industry a playing platform, a framework to work with. If there are no leases, no licenses, no regulation in the industry, what that means is that investors won't see a platform to come in. So you need those policies and framework to be available. But they also need to look at those indices, the economic indices. Is there a viable environment to put in my money? There are several countries where we have oil and gas today. If they are cheaper for a producer to produce, they leave Nigeria and go to those areas. So that is why, for you to make any change, you must consider the major stakeholders, who are basically the international oil companies, because their body language tells a lot to other investors.
Prior to this period, I'm still staying on the PIA Act. A lot of experts were actually speculating that if the PIA Act, PIAB finally become an art, which is already an art as we speak, it is actually going to jettison a subsidy. The question is, why did the organized labor not react at that time?
We made our inputs. Our inputs were taken. For instance, under the Trade Union Congress, the Pengasin, which is an affiliate of Trade Union, also made their submission. And our views were shared. Those views also reflected in some of the elements of the new act, which is actually in force. So, but what we are saying is that the regulation should manage all these indices. Today we have the upstream and midstream regulatory boards. Those commissions are the ones that are going to regulate both the mid and upstream activities in the industry. So if you had thought through some of these elements, you cannot keep the refinery away from it. Yes, we know that the government has promised that they are working on it. They are rehabilitating the refineries, but you need to make sure that the refineries come some stream. At least 80% of their total output should be fully implemented. And that's the only way it can help.
Interested. Let's go straight to some of the demand of the Trade Union Congress. First of all, you are demanding that the federal government firstly fix the Moribod refinery before ending subsidy. The thing is what is the roadmap to actualizing this? Looking at the period, we just have this is January. In a few months now we'll get to June, and the finance minister had said that provision for subsidies only made from January to June. Now, if the government is unable to fix, first of all, how actualizable is fixing the Moribod refinery before July?
The fixing of the refineries is not just starting in 2022. That process has been in view, and we have our members from Pengasin and Nupeng who are part of the committee in the rehabilitation. So the rehabilitation process had already commenced. So, but what we are expecting is that by June, the government should have concluded with that. If all in this is
you are an engineer. What is the possibility of meeting up to that date?
I have not gone to the site, so I can't actually say how far they've gone with. But the report is that they are working on the refineries. The rehabilitation is ongoing.
The reason why I'm putting
this rehabilitation,
of course,
not,
the reason why I'm putting this forth to you is because in TUC or organized labor, they are like the strength of the society. So if the people are actually, yes, if you say that, if the people are actually putting forward some clauses, some demands to the government, let's be looking at realistic demand. Don't you think so?
The demands are realistic. Our demands are very open and realistic. During the NEC session, 5 elements were identified: the rising costs of living, insecurity, alternative to energy, as in looking at other ways where Nigerians can actually like improving the agricultural sector. Then you also look at the issue of loss of jobs, basically around the already privatized electricity companies. Our members are losing their jobs. Those are the major concerns that were raised.
Another demand from the TUC is support for political commission of the Congress in creating grand well awareness for providing leadership. I think I'll end there. Let's get a redefinition of what did you this for us.
All right. The Trade Union Congress had reviewed what the political terrain in Nigeria and sphere is like, and had decided to not just to advocate, but begin to participate in politics. So one of the strategy is to reactivate the moribund Labour Party, which from its incipient stage was a brainchild of the trade centers. So what we are saying is that, yes, through the commission we mobilize our members to be more political conscious. You can't just be outside criticizing without participating. We have a lot of people who have been groomed to provide leadership. We want to participate. We want to be part of redefining the policies that drive the economy of the nation.
Interesting. Political consciousness. I think I like that. Looking at the fact that, or bearing in mind that election is just around the corner, and the people have been having this misconception of the stand of organized labor concerning which parts of the device they belong to. Do they belong, are they standing for the people, or are they standing for the political elite? Because at some point they will say, people do say, when there is issue of this nature, subsidy removal, they want to go on strike. Some will say they are just fighting for their stomach. It's just about them. It's not really about the people. Now, if the TUC are saying your people should get in a political, should have this political interest, or should be political conscious, is this not another way of like putting themselves first before the people, looking at how close the 2023 election
who are
is just
themselves? Who are Nigerians? Who have our fundamental human rights, the right to vote and be voted for. So you can't just be outside criticizing the process without coming in to change the process. And let me put it this way. If you have the people, as you say, NLC, TUC, organized labor, is present in the 36 states of the country, including the FCT. So we have our members who are civil servants. And the law does not bar them from providing leadership as political office holders. There is no law against that. So what we are saying is that it is time for us to be at the steering. If you look at Labour Party, the origin of Labour Party in the UK, it was a brainchild of the Trade Union Congress. So political parties is not alien anyway to the trade union or organized labor people. We live in the country, we participate in elections. So why would we vote for people without participating fully, without showing leadership? We believe that our people have been developed enough to look at the issues and address the issue. It affects the poor masses of the nation. We are an alternative voice to the masses. Yes, the perceptions are there that whatever you do, people will always see you as in fighting for yourself. We work, we are the only group that have been contributing to nation building.
How?
Let me tell you.
Of course, yes.
A lot of business people are not properly tasked in this country today. But organized laborers, we are fully tasked. We are paying our taxes. And we have the right to ask what our money is being used for. So if you don't participate, when you pay your taxes, your members pay their taxes across the nation, and the money that is being paid is not properly utilized, what do? You begin to ask questions. What are our taxes used for? Provision of infrastructure, healthcare, education. These are part of why people pay their taxes. So the organized labor is saying we won't be staying far again. We want to be part of the process. We cannot just be voting for people. Let our people who are groomed and nurtured for leadership, let them come and present themselves. for leadership.
Again, the people who you...
It's not about 2023.
Hold on, I agreed. The people you represent, or the people you said you're the voice, organized labor, the voice, alternative voice of the people. Looking at all of the economical crisis the people have actually been going through, the labor never come at one day to speak at, except maybe...
No, I think you're not right. You're not right.
As stands to be corrected.
Yes, let me put it in perspective. The reality is that the process of industrial and employee relations or trade unionism is a continuous dialogue thing. At every point in time, we create avenue to sit on the table to discuss the issues. But these issues get our attention at every point in time. We're also part of the society. Our children go to the same school where the poor masses go to. There is nothing different. So we are part of the suffering. And that is why we come up to shout at every point in time when things are changing. We put it to the leadership to say, do things right. Stop being reactive.
When there was increase in gas price, a very huge increase, at some point it was times 100% of the actual price. In 2021, we saw the increase in gas price like 3 times. Of just recently we saw maybe a decrease in gas price. The masses, were, in your word, were expecting maybe Labour will speak up.
There is one thing we must know. The product.
Labour isn't interested in
no, we are part of the process. I don't tell you of Pengassim.
Yes.
That's the senior staff and middle management members of the association.
Yes.
Who represent our interests. So they've spoken. We've spoken severally. But what we are saying, and that is why we are raising our concerns about the refineries and the proper utilization, for instance, the LNG. These are commodities that price indices are controlled internationally, not controlled by the local indices. So what that means is that you cannot regulate an import-based commodity. It is not in your hands to regulate. The factors of the COVID, for instance, the weather conditions, and other political indices can affect the price of this commodity, which is not under your control. Therefore, if you want to impact on the masses, you need your internal production to be high.
Interesting. Let's go further. Let's still look at the demand. I will come back to the issue of Pengassim as relation to the fight against artisanal refinery in Rivers State. Let's just keep that.
Pengassim or TUC?
TUC, of course, TUC.
Pengassim is a live letter of TUC.
Yes, but they are also part of TUC.
Yeah, they are.
So you are here. Maybe you're going to give us eye view.
They have their spokesperson.
Oh, no. You need to talk, because you keep saying, when I mentioned the issue of gas, you said you have Pengassim, which happen to be part of it.
Yeah, they're thinking
and
about
they are doing
it,
something. So they should be able to do something. Anyways, let's drop that. Let's move further. Another of the demands of the TUC is to deregulate the downstream, such as revitalization of existing refinery. You see why we need to talk about the artisanal refinery. Then establishment of new ones, including modular refinery.
Yes, those are the advocacies who are putting to the table. We are saying we know the attendant issue of crude oil theft and pipeline vandalization. The IOCs are suffering it, and the environment where both of us live, breathe and eat is also suffering it. The ecosystem is degraded to a level where you can't. The aquatic lives are affected. So the only solution is for government to take decisive action by providing alternative to what the people are doing in illegal refining. When you have infrastructures in place that is close to the raw material, you limit the issues of vandalization. You limit the issues of theft. So where would the modular refineries be sited? They won't be sited in Kaduna. They'll be sited close to where the raw material is coming from. And that is why people are advocating that these modular refineries should be seen as an issue of urgent priority. Not just saying it. You can't continue to say one thing. And again, individual state governments around the Niger Delta areas who had collected licenses long ago should go into action by ensuring that those refineries come into place. You can't take a license and you keep it in your pocket without acting on it.
There's a saying that the road to achieving a huge or monumental project is usually procedural. In other words, it goes through a particular process. Now, all of these aforementioned are monumental projects. The question is, why did the TUC or the organized labor have to compound all of them and wait for the particular moment to push it forward to the federal government?
This is not the first time we have agitated, we have put to the table for federal government to take decisive action on rehabilitating the refineries. We've advocated that the refineries should be rehabilitated and fully privatized to be commercially viable.
After your
and we also propose the adoption of the NLNG model, which is the IJVC, Integrated Joint Venture contract, which will give the control of the refineries to private investors. Because what is happening is that when you hand over our refineries to government don't run business. They are slow in running business. But we've invested so much in the refineries. Let the refineries be functional and then commercialize it by bringing in independent investors into the business. And the business will be viable. Refinery is a viable business across the globe.
You said this demand has been on for a very
long time.
So what actions were matched with the words get the attention of the government of the day?
That is why you see today TUC is taking a different approach than the normal and usual protest. We've seen that the protests are not yielding the desired result. You go on protest and they take you like what happened with the NSAS. It's just the normal go to the street and come back. But what I say, we need to re-strategize, rejig our processes, and then manage our conversation with the government and see alternative way of solving the marriage problem we have in Nigeria.
Effective policing of borders to stem the rate of petroleum product smuggling and etc. should be implemented. Is this also the job of the federal government? Let's be honest with
Yeah, it is the job of the federal government. Control of border. The control of border is a major aspect of their responsibility. What is the immigration doing? What is custom doing? Immigration manages influx of foreigners into the country.
Not to forget the issue of oil theft has been there for a while.
Yes, and you are talking of moving the petroleum product across the border. You know what is pushing people to do that. For instance, a liter of petrol is PMS is sold for 165 naira. When you go across the border, it goes beyond 2 USD. And today, you know what $2 is. So until you reduce the viability, what people are looking outside, if you make the price competitive here, there won't be need for people to smuggle it outside the country. So we need to be self-sufficient in country before talking of even exporting the product.
All right, my guest has been Comrade Engineer Fortune Obi, is the Secretary of the Trade Union Congress Rivers State Chapter. We have been looking at the suspension of petroleum subsidy amidst mobilization for strike action by the Trade Union Congress. We're asking what next. So when we're going to short break. When we return, we'll be asking the question, what is the next line of action? Another suspension, the petroleum subsidy has been suspended for a while, according to the Finance Minister. What's the next line of action from the Trade Union Congress? We're going to short break. When we return, we'll talk about that and dive into our next discussion. Stay with us. Alright, welcome back. We're looking at suspension of petroleum subsidy witness from organized labor. I have the TUC Secretary, River State Chapter, with me in the studio, Comrade Engineer Fortune. Will be answering questions bordering on that particular subject. But let's tidy up things here now. The direct question is, what's the next line of action? The government had said so there is a suspension of subsidy removal for the now. And again, we saw there was a back and front from Senate to Minister of Finance and all of that. So if you ask me, I wasn't so surprised about the suspension. But from the organized level, what's next? Are you still embarking on the strike, or what should Nigerians expect?
Like I earlier said, their response was a reactive one. It was not well thought out through. But it's expected anyway. We can't just put our voices across and they won't respond. It will be irresponsible of the government not to respond to the cry of the masses. Our step is that we are mobilizing our members for a national action. When that will be a decision of the SEMNEC of the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria. We are not joining an LLC on the nation on the nationwide protest of 27th. We have a different approach because the two trade centers are actually independent of each other. So the NEC of NLC had their decision, and they believe that protest will give them the desired result. We reviewed our last protest actions and we saw that they weren't giving us the desired result. So, but we also had come up with a plan to continue the engagement. It is a continuous engagement thing, and we'll continue to dialogue. This is another opportunity to look at the other areas they were not able to see before now. So I believe the leadership of the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria will be meeting with government as time goes by.
Should Nigerians believe, trust, and hope on the trade union to come home with positive results?
We are always positive in our demands.
So, some will say they are just going there to have meeting. When they collect their stipends, they go back home.
What stipends?
See,
one thing is
that the issue at hand.
Most times people forget that we also work. We work for organizations. I work for a corporate organization, an international organization at that. So I earn my salary, which is enough. What we are saying is that we're speaking an alternative voice from the existing political voices. We are saying things from a different binocular. So what we are saying is we will continue to give the alternative voice. And that alternative voice is that the government should not be reactive.
All right, our eyes are on the news, and of course to see how that pans out. And of course, you put the mantra for which you stand on, that's alternative voice for the people. We hope to see how that works. All right, we'll take a short break, and we'll talk education, improve educational sector in Nigeria. We'll talk about that after this break. To stay with us. Welcome back. We talk World Education Day, roadmap to improve educational sector. Across the world, International Education Day celebrated January 24 to bring to fore the importance of education, national development and peace building. It was proclaimed by the UNESCO to appreciate the dynamic versatility in education with this year's theme as Changing Course, Transforming Education. Is there a need for a transformed education sector in Nigeria? Bearing in mind the new normal occasioned by coronavirus pandemic, is there a need for educational revival in the country? I have joining me now via Zoom is Dr. Progress Daniel. I still have a comrade with me in the studio to look at this particular issue. Dr. Progress, are you there? Dr. Progress, thanks for joining the show.
Thank you. You're welcome for having me.
All right, how are you doing today?
Hectic day. Well, I'm better.
Okay, World Education Day, or International Day of Education, was celebrated 24th January. This year's theme will talk about transform education and the need for us to change course. The question is, looking at the new normal and of course dissecting the situation of education in Nigeria, is there a need for a tweak in the education sector?
First of all, I want to say thank you for having me via Zoom. If you check our education system holistically, last night I tried to do a little review on the budgetary allocation of Nigerian education from 1999 to date. And the budgetary allocation, none in the education sector has gotten up to 10%. If you check, there was an improvement during the Jonathan's administration, and there was some kind of a stable allocation, budgetary allocation for the year within that time. From the APC-led federal government took over, there has been an increase on each year on the budget. And then that area of education has never seen anything different. So you cannot be talking about education in this country because if I could recall years ago, we used to have foreign students, we used to have foreign lecturers in our Nigerian universities. Today, it is no more so. So even when you check the regional environments where these universities are sited, you do not see lecturers, let's say the Yorubas, the North, down in the South teaching, not the same. So I do not really know the kind of the education system where we as a nation we are looking at to have. So our education system, I don't think we really have much to do because we're not ready to fund it, we're not ready to make it work, we're not ready to make it grow. A few days ago, I was looking at some pictures on social media and I saw heaps of what students did in the name of research. Pile up under rain, some pile up somewhere. These are the things that the people work tirelessly night and day. They are given degrees everywhere. But I don't know. I think there is no improvement in our education system based on funding. That's what I think our education system needs right now.
Okay, we're actually looking at roadmap to improve education system. In other words, the pathway to having an improved education system. Let's talk about our teachers' welfare. Let's talk about infrastructure, and let's even talk about the curricula. If we're saying the pathway, which way to go, where do you think attention should be focused on for a start?
Now, if we want to improve our education system, then first we must look at the infrastructure. Now, these children, will they learn on the floor? What is the size of the classroom? What is the learning environment? There are so many things that cost across the educational system that our government are not ready. Now, so if we want to look at a pathway to develop our education, first we must look at one, the infrastructure. Two, funding. It is when you have a good, conducive learning environment, then you could now have a good teacher. Even if you have a good teacher, a good curriculum, without proper infrastructure, it's still the same thing. So, first of all, as a nation, we need to declare a state of emergency in the education sector, on infrastructure, then the curriculum, because the world is revolving. We'll look at what it is today. Last year, it was different.
Dr. Progress, are you there? Okay, network, we hope you get to reconnect. I still have engineer Fortune will be with me. Okay.
Let's give the education system a facelift. First, the infrastructure needs to be revived before curriculum. And it all boils down to funding of the sector. So if there must be a way to improve it, then I expect Mr. President to declare a state of emergency and governors to follow suit.
Okay, I'll come back to you shortly. Let me talk to Engineer Fortune. He said attention should focus on infrastructure. If we have the right infrastructure, we're going to ask who we lecture. What about the quality of teachers we have in the school? What about the quality of graduates we bring out for the school? So let's put all of this into priority.
All right. First, I will ask myself the very basic question: what is the importance of education? One of such importance is building people, the right people with the right mentality for the society, making people better citizens of a nation. That is the most important benefit of education. Now, let's look at it from this angle. Infrastructure is one of the problems we have in Nigeria, but you also need the professionalism. You need the curriculum. Education is not just the university education. From kindergarten, what are the budgetary allocation like you just said? The budgetary allocation is very discouraging. There is no nation that can grow with the kind of attention we pay to education in this country. If you look at part of the foreign income earning for UK, education is one of the major income earners for them. When you build a strong institution around our educational system, it will even attract more people into the system. The value chain is so massive. So the government must be very conscious. If you want to make a change, you must be conscious in your decisions. The decision to have a robust educational system must start from the leadership of the country. We must pay attention to developing people, developing the system that will develop those people. Because if you have poorly developed people that are not properly educated, you have a society that is riddled with chaos.
Okay, interesting. Dr. Progress.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Experts have said that Nigeria should improve our education system, and the best way to go about it is to start seeing that aspect of as an economy and again as a business rather than a necessity that should be given to the people, that if they look into this sector in that dimension, they're going to see the need to focus more funds and do all of the revitalization that the sector is craving for. Do you agree to this?
Yes, it's true. Like as a guest in the studio said, even when we review the curriculum, there's a question while he was talking that crossed my mind. Do our governors, do our senators, do our local government chairmen, do they send their words to the kindergarten, the community primary schools in their village? If we think our leaders if our leaders think we need to change the education, we need to improve the education, first let them withdraw their children from the private schools outside the country and bring them back home. Let them enjoy what the common man is enjoying in the classroom on the floor. Now, if a governor's son attends, let's say Governor Wike's son attends English surgery, and then the son comes back to say, this, we don't have this. There's no way he won't fix it. But they don't look at our education system. They value outside.
Oh, we lost him there. Okay, let's get your concluding thoughts on this. Is it possible for us to have our political elites in our school, our public school, according to what Dr. Progress has said now?
But do you know the most interesting thing about the whole situation is that most of the political elites you are talking about benefited from the public school in Nigeria. This particular education that has gone moribund, it was their product. So, but today they cannot sell that product. Why would you sell a product you can't consume to anybody? If they don't want to change, the society will change them. Why do I say that? If you allow the system to continue to decay, your children will go outside and return to govern in this same country. You create a monster you cannot control. So it is important we understand that education is the basics for any developing or developed country. So for our economy to be developed, we must have a standard education in place.
Thank you so much, Comrade Engineer Fortune Obi, for your time on this show. He's the Secretary, Trade Union Congress, Rifle State Chapter. Thank you so much for your time on the show.
You're welcome.
Dr. Progress Daniel, Academia, thank you for your input on this particular subject, if you're still there.
Thanks.
Okay, and this is the show for today. Many thanks for watching. Follow us on our social media handle, Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network, and Instagram, Atlantic TV Network. Peace and unity, a pathway to progress. Bye for now.